Welcome back to Night Sky Studios. 2013 Aurora Borealis recording. It's been a minute, but we're back in business doing it all again. In this video, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk about a lot of the gear that we're using. So if you're a gearhead, this will be a great video for you to watch. If you're not so much into the gear, you might just want to fast forward a few minutes to watch Mark playing some drums. But let me show you a little bit about what we're using. On the kick drum in this one, we're just using a DM5 now just to track, just to kind of get the sounds in place, but you know that's going to be replaced later. But for now, the kick trigger is just going through a True Systems preamp over here. We don't have any compression or any EQ, not much of anything on it since it's going to be replaced anyway. Let's go ahead to the snare drum. We're going to use an API 312 preamp on it. That is going to run into also an API EQ that's right underneath of it. After it's going to go out of the EQ, we're going to run into a Chandler germanium compressor, and we're really into the analog gear here. We're trying to capture the best sounds possible before we even go into recording, so that it's minimal mixing and everything's just going to sound good going on the way in, so we don't have to worry about that. Snare bottom, we're going to run it through this cheaper Focusrite. EQ is probably the cheapest one we have here, but it's got a little EQ on it, so we can capture some decent EQ on the way in. That's also going to run through a Chandler germanium compressor as well, and those Chandler germanium compressors just give a nice pop to the snare drum. They really help to enhance that. As for the toms, most of the toms are going to be running back through the rest of the API preamps. Those toms are also going to be getting compressors, mostly the Neve compressors, but on the bottom two we're going to use the distressor compressors, just because they carry a little bit more weight, and these are a lot more transparent than the Neve stuff. The toms are also going to get EQ as well. On the bottom two toms we're going to be running the Manley Stereo Pultec style EQ. It's only a 2-band EQ, but it does great for things like kick drums and low toms. So we're going to boost the lows on that a little bit, maybe boost the tops a little bit, just capture a little bit more attack. But these things sound superb on anything of that nature. The other toms are just going to run through the API EQ as well. So they're all going to get EQ, they're all going to get compression. Hi-hat, moving on to the hi-hat. Nothing special on that. That's just going through the Pacifica preamp, which is a pretty old school sounding preamp. It's really smooth sounding. Simultaneously, that's going to be running through the Empirical Labs Little Freak EQ. So we got heavy low cuts going on, cutting out some of the mucky, the lower mid stuff, and we're boosting some of the tops to try to get that really crisp hi-hat on the way in as well. Ride, just going opposite the next channel on the Pacifica. So left to right, you're going to have a little bit of Pacifica on each side of the kit. Moving on to the overheads, we're going to run the Neve preamps on that. So they're also really smooth sounding. So the cymbals come out just really silky smooth. With those preamps, we're also going to be running a tube EQ across the overheads as well. That's going to be the A-Design's Hammer EQ. Like I said, it's a tube EQ, 3-band on each side. We're running the low cut on it. We're filtering out a lot of the low stuff, a lot of the lower mids, and we're boosting the tops. Just trying to make it really silky and glassy, like I said. The room mics, nothing special is going on there as well. Just running a DBX tube EQ to try to warm up the room sound if we decide we want to use it. We may or may not put that in the mix. I'm not really sure yet, but we're just going to run it just to be safe. But other than that, that's kind of the analog stuff that we're running, and we're going to hope to capture everything we can on the way in. Like I said, making our mix really easy. Let's go take a look at the drum set and see what's going on out there. Come through the lobby. These are some of the recordings that we've done. This is the Aurora Borealis discography here. We got all the cover stuff we've done, all the albums, the EPs, pretty much top to bottom. That's all stuff that we've been a part of or done. The rest of the stuff, we just got tons and tons of other records that we've done all the way around, top to bottom. Pretty active studio. Coming on into the tracking room. Different kit this time, obviously. You guys can tell that right offhand. I don't know if much has changed in the miking from last time, so I'm just going to really quickly go over the mics with you guys. Top and bottom snare, 57. Across the toms, all Sennheiser 421. Hi-hat and ride, SM81 Sure stuff. Coming around to the front, we got 3 overheads, AKG 414s all the way around. Same with we added some room mics this time, so if you look above, you know, we're going to run also some AKG 414s on the top for the overhead. We kind of got some, you know, paneling and some gobos here, breaking off, kind of blocking the wall, blocking the baby grand back there so we don't catch any miscellaneous noise. But at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mark so he can talk to you about his drum set.
Alright everybody, so the kit we're using for this album is a Premier Signia. This thing is solid maple. It's an older kit that they're actually kind of hard to find, so they're pretty sought after. So I don't think they make them anymore. This kit has reinforcement hoops inside the shells, you can see here. All the toms except the 8-inch tom. This kit is actually, I got this from Derek Rowley, bought it off him. And what's interesting about this is Derek recorded Praise the Archaic Lights Embrace and Northern Lights with this drum kit. So this is actually the third album, the third Aurora Borealis album that this drum kit was on. The tom sizes that we have here, 8, 10, 12, 15 for the floor. The kick drum sizes are 20-inch kick drums. So my last drum kit had 22s. This is a little smaller with 20-inch, which I actually like a lot better because I could put the toms a little lower and it's just easier to work around overall. The snare drum is a Mapex Black Panther Bird's Eye Maple. It's the same exact one we use on Timeline. So that thing, we A-beat it with another one that we have, but you know, this is the one we ended up using. For the heads that I'm using Evans G2 on the batters and G1s on the resonant heads underneath the toms. And for the snare we have an Aquarian High Energy on the top and just a standard Remo Ambassador snare side head on the bottom there. The hi-hat is a Meinl Soundcaster Fusion. This is actually a bottom hi-hat cymbal here. And what I use this for is a ride cymbal because it's got a nice bell sound. And what I like about it is that, you know, I can get that double ride effect by having this here. And but I don't have a 20-inch or 22-inch cymbal taking up a lot of space. And I know in the last video there's a lot of concerns about how close my cymbals were to each other. And the reality of it is not only are these not touching, but the way I play this cymbal is more towards the bell. You know, I'm not hitting it like a crash cymbal, I'm hitting it more like a ride with the tip of the stick. So as you can see, there's very little movement. So you're not going to have any contact from one cymbal to the next there. This china here is a Pasty PST5 18-inch. We have a Pasty 14-inch Alpha. We have a Zildjian 16-inch Armin cymbal. We have a Meinl bell here. Zildjian 10-inch A Custom Splash. Sabian B8 Splash. I think it's, I don't know, probably, I guess that's a 6-inch cymbal. Everything's worn off. Ron makes me polish my cymbals, so in doing that I lose all my logos and all the info. This is a Zildjian 18-inch medium crash. This is a Pasty 18-inch Alpha China, which is actually the larger version of the 14-inch over here. They both sound great for different applications. This is a Pasty 2002 18-inch crash. And for the ride we have a K 20-inch ride that is pretty old actually. I think this is like 15, maybe 20 years old even, and they don't even make Ks like this now. They're actually smoother, so it's kind of, you know, I don't even know if you can get this like this anymore. So for the kick drums, we have EQ3s on the batters, but that doesn't really matter so much because we're going to replace the kick drum sounds in the computer later. We're using a DM5 module with, I think it's like the speed metal sound, but again, it's just for reference really, so when I'm recording I can hear what I'm playing. And again, we'll go back and replace the sounds. Probably layer, who knows how many kick sounds we'll layer in together to get the nice attack and a nice punch to it as well. The pedals are Axis Derek Roddy A21s. I just picked these up recently with an endorsement from Axis, so that's kind of cool that they hooked me up with that. And what's cool about the 21s is the beater is actually angled like 21 degrees forward, and with doing that it puts it closer to the head, but to get the beater back at a normal angle you're going to want to pull it back, and which brings the footboard up, and what that does overall is give you a little bit more power to the stroke. And the way I like to explain it is that it's kind of like a cross between the Axis pedal, like the traditional Axis, and a chain drive pedal, because you have the direct drive setup that you get with all the Axis, but you still have with the angle that they give you with the 21, it kind Gives you a little bit more natural power, a little bit more natural swing to the overall movement of the pedal. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, we're really happy Mark got this kit, man. It found its way back home to us, you know, after being on those 2 records that he talked about. We've always really liked the sound of this kit.
Yeah.
So, you know, shout out to Derek. He's one of the best drummers out there. As a matter of fact, shout out to all the drummers that have played on our records,
Oh, yeah.
because, you know, you got your Tony Laureano, Tim Young, Derek Roddy, and now Mark Green. So if you guys never heard, you know, some of the back catalog, you should probably go listen to it if you're into drums, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And this new one is it's not breaking the chain. This one's new. It's also insane on the drums, thanks to Mark. And I think you guys are gonna really enjoy it. Let's listen to some metal.
I'd like to, yeah.
Cutting the Aurora Borealis guitars for the 2013 release, and I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about some of the amps that we have at the studio, what we've been using, what we've used in the past. I'm going to just go down the line and talk a little bit about each amp. This is the Engel Invader 150. It's probably my favorite amp that I have right now. Right below that we have a triple rectifier, Mesa Boogie. Below that we have a Bogner Ubershaw, straight up death metal amp. Below that, this is the crown of the studio. This is an Ecstasy 100B. It's not the 101B, but it's the 100B. No, serial number 30, hand signed by the builder. Pretty rare amp, pretty nice amp. Below that, we have a VHT Pitbull Ultra Lead head. Also a really good amp for metal or heavier stuff. Below that, we have an orange Rocker Verb 50. Awesome little amp for rock. And below that we have an old school Marshall JCM 900. And way over here there's a matchless Clubman 35, sort of a little boutique amp. On the new record that we're doing right now, what I've done is I've taken the Engel as my main sound for the top end and the sort of clarity, and I blended it back with the Bogner Ubershaw for the fatness and the bottom. And so those two are going to go together, one on each side. So I have one of these left, one of these left, one of these right, one of these right. On the last album, Timeline, we used a combination of the VHT and the orange amp. So that's that tone that you guys heard on the last record. And as far as what I'm running it through over here, we're going to stick with the trusty API 312 preamp, running it into an API EQ. And the only thing I'm doing here is I'm cutting out 30 hertz a little bit and 75 hertz just a little bit. I'm boosting 3K just a tiny bit, and nothing further up after that. After that, I'm running it into a distressor. That's a compressor with a 4-to-1 ratio. Only looking for a couple decibel of compression, just a tiny bit. We're not trying to over compress it because the distorted guitars are saturated enough. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're using this time around. I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Shine!